there, my very good friends. On today's wrestling news, a surprising title change on AEW Dynamite Fyter Fest Week 1. That's a long show name. An AEW tag team is reportedly not getting on behind the scenes. We've got news of Sasha Banks taking bookings outside of WWE. And on top of all of that, we have an update on Big E, and it is good news. Good news indeed. I'm Andy Murray.
I'm Michael Hamflett.
And this is the news. This is the news. We're going to kick things off. Contrasting fortunes for a couple of AEW tag teams. We'll start with the kayfabe good fortunes. Well, just good fortunes in general, because how can you not like these guys and how well they're doing since coming to this company. Swerve Strickland and Keith Lee are the tag team champions. They won last night's main event. It was a three-way match pitting them against champions the Young Bucks, as well as Team Taz's Ricky Starks, Powerhouse Hobbs. Wonderful match that we will tell you all about, not only in the podcast that the Dadley Boys and Adam Wilborn will be recording. We've got our Ups and Downs article that I write. We've got Simon Miller doing Ups and Downs on the channel, extended thoughts across the board on that match and the show in general. But AEW pulled the title change less than a month after the Young Bucks had become two-time champions, so it's quite a short reign by those belts and their standards, but nonetheless it came over extremely well in the evening. The finish was Keith Lee doing one of his insane flips to the outside, landed on about 7 different guys, and then Swerve hit the Swerve Stomp on Ricky Starks for the win. Big moment for them. They got the confetti raining down. Just a feel-good moment across the board, particularly given like some of the rough times that Keith Lee in particular has gone through over the past couple of years. I felt very happy for that guy in general, and Swerve too, of course, because he's a very talented man. Bit surprising to me. I thought that either one of two things was going to happen. The Bucks were going to retain, and then we're going to have the match for all the belts at All Out with FTR, or Ricky Starks, he's been having a bit of a moment lately. Maybe after that fire promo in the control center, they were going to put the belts on Team Taz. Neither of those happened, but hey, look, this was a lot of fun, and I'm very happy.
Yeah, I mean, it was a total ripper of a match. Absolutely worth going out your way. If you listen to this and hearing the result for the first time, go and watch it. It was great, but then water's wet. What did we expect? It was the Young Bucks swerving our glory and Starks and Hobbs in a three-way.
Yeah.
I think it's quite nice that they played with a surprise result for a change. One of the criticisms of Dynamite this year, and I mean a lot of criticisms of Dynamite this year felt like they were being addressed on last night's episode. But one of the big criticisms is that just the way Tony Khan books at the moment, it's obvious winner versus obvious losers. And as you pointed out, there was one obvious loser in this match, and they ended up winning the match.
Yeah.
So
we all thought they were going to split up in this match.
Exactly, yeah. Every now and then you have to book the trend and be a little bit unpredictable just to remind your viewers it can happen.
Yep.
And even if the split is forthcoming, they've done a brilliant way of making us all forget about that for the nice moment, which will only make the split more heartbreaking rather than formulaic and expected as it would have been had it occurred last night. Nice all round as well. I think that's really key to this. I think you've hit up on the right point there.
Feel good moment.
Feel good. Wrestling's not real, but we know to wrestlers these moments absolutely are. And it's just nice when people have good days at their job.
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes they have malfunctioned here. It's nice when things are nice, is what I'm trying to say. Our second story of the day, if I can get through it without falling to pieces. So this is something that's been circulating for a while. There's been rumors, people putting two and two together. A lot of innuendo, in the words of Bruce Pritchard, rumor and innuendo, whatever. But we have some concrete comments from somebody now, Conan, wrestling legend Conan, who is close to these two men, on his Keeping It 100 podcast, mentioning Santana and Ortiz, who are of course one of the most tenured and biggest tag teams in AEW, they're not on good terms at the moment. That's all we got from Conan, but it is kind of confirmation of something that has been bouncing around for what feels like months and months on end. So it's kind of difficult to pick apart because it's people's personal business, obviously, and whatever's going on between those two guys is between those two guys. But it is sad, I think. It's really sad. I mean, like, I've got some stats here for you. I've got one stat here for you. They haven't had a conventional 2-on-2 tag team match since the 16th of February. Now, obviously, they've been in things like Blood and Guts and various multi-person matches, but no just straight-up tag matches since then. they've not really been presented as like a unified act on television. They've more been like just a part of a wider group, be it with Eddie Kingston or whoever else. Since they're split from I almost called them the Jericho Appreciation Society, since they're split with the Inner Circle and Jericho and all those dudes. So yeah, Santana tweeted in April 126 days, and it was immediately speculated that he was counting down the end of his AEW contract. That has not been confirmed, although it would kind of line up if he had signed a 3-year deal having debuted. It was All Out they debuted, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That would roughly work out for an expiry date. So not confirmed, purely speculative. It's just a shame because they were such a great tag team. They're so much fun. They've been friends for a long time. Personally, I hope that whatever's getting between them can be resolved. But if it can't, that's their business and they've got to move on the best way they can.
Yeah, well, like you said, it's people's personal lives and we don't know the finer points and the finer details other than what Conan has told us. Bret Hart said it in his book, didn't he? He said that one of the sort of unique things about him and Jim Neidhart as the Hart Foundation was that they were one of the only teams that didn't fall out when they split up. He said it was more common for tag teams to fall apart. Even if you didn't see it on screen, it was typical that it was happening behind the scenes, and that's why tag teams were eventually booked to split as well. So it's not uncommon in wrestling, but it's a shame all the same. And it has brought into focus, I think, with that stat there, and indeed one we were discussing independent of this story weeks ago, about the fact that Proud and Powerful hadn't had a standard tag team match on a pay-per-view since 2019.
Yeah, that's right.
Which is just insane when you think about it. If you consider them profiled, but they're not profiled enough to make it onto the big quarterly money shows, what really is that profile worth? And that might cause tension as well. And it's just wrestling, can do this, I suppose. And yeah, it would be a shame if they did split. But they've got to do what's best for themselves as well. No matter what their personal relationships are, when it overlaps so tightly with a professional one, that countdown of a contract suggests that one of them will at least be thinking, well, I've got to go and make my money elsewhere.
Yeah.
So there's overlapping forces here at play. It's a shame, but if it brings about, prosperity in their careers beyond AEW or beyond the team, then I suppose they'll be happy with it long term.
Yeah, absolutely. And they're both two very talented guys.
Yeah.
I'm sure will kill it whatever happens next for them. So, hey, there we go. Right, we're going to talk a little bit about Sasha Banks. She was announced yesterday for an appearance outside WWE, and that got people talking. It's the Chicago Comic and Entertainment Expo. She's going to be there on the 6th and 7th of August. Autographs, photo opportunities, stuff like that. It's quite interesting because Mick Foley, who just signed a new WWE Legends contract, is going to be there. Trish Stratus is going to be there. So, Sasha's in this contract dispute with the company. She's trying to engineer her release. Barely a day passes without some kind of thing coming up on the matter. But because this was a high-profile appearance outside of WWE, it's understandably got people talking, and that has led to a follow-up report from Fightful Select noting that wrestling conventions who have tried to reach out to book Sasha have been told that this won't be able to happen until 2023. Now, on top of this, wrestling-related promoters have also been informed that she is only taking non-wrestling bookings until the 1st of January. Now, whether or not this is contractual or personal, the reasons behind it, that's not known at the moment. And there's still no firm word on whether or not WWE has actually released her. We had the report that she had been released. That was from Raj Giri of Wrestling Inc. We've had others. Dave Meltzer, I believe, has reported several times that she's actually just working on it with her lawyers. So it's a confusing ass situation, and it's going to continue to be a confusing ass situation for the while. So I think with this, we've picked Sasha stuff apart till the cows come home several times. I think with this, if she is going to sit out in pro wrestling until January, that as much as I think she's great, and as much as I'd love to see her show up in Japan or AEW or wherever the hell else, like tomorrow, I think it'd be awesome. Not necessarily the worst thing in the world, I don't think, because while we personally love Sasha Banks and everything, I do get a sense of weediness regarding these stories, regarding these developments. When they come up, a lot of people now are like, oh, come on, what? Like, they're maybe a little bit tired of hearing about these bits and pieces that they come up. So might not be the worst thing for her to come back like 6 months from now and get a mega pop. What do you reckon? I mean, maybe I'm just talking complete pish here.
No, I agree with that. It's that thing of wanting the news, not the weather, isn't it? At this point, people are hungry. Like, an issue when a story like this breaks, of course, anything is spicy, and especially when it's a juicy one like Sasha Banks, where she's had issues with the company before and has kind of like been able to take a stance in the past. But now, after this many teasers of if she won't or if she will, and with none of us knowing the facts, you can speculate that maybe this is just a result of long negotiations. And there's no other way to report long negotiations other than negotiations are long and they're going on and things like that. And then you get little stories like this. I think at this point, the less we hear about Sasha Banks, the more whatever her decision is will sort of be magnified on television, whether that's in AEW, in another company, or indeed returning to WWE. A surprise appearance. There's all this news about she can't take wrestling bookings till 2023. What if that means she takes the rest of the year off and then her return is at the Royal Rumble,
Boom,
for example?
Number 30 wins it.
Enormous pop. Like, that comeback story will be as big as if she'd landed in another company because she's been gone so long. These Comic-Cons and things like that, it's always interesting to me that there's theoretically a rule. It's typically, if you're a WWE guy, you're probably not going to be there. But there have been rule-proven exceptions in the past, and there have been weird overlaps, and Conrad events seem to exist in the grey area. Remember when The Undertaker was advertised as StarCast temporarily? There is so many over there. Kurt Angle was in, and then he was out, and then he was in, and then he was out. There's all sorts of different rules for different guys, and I like Sasha Banks, if nothing else, kind of putting herself out there and maybe dipping a toe to what could be sort of other opportunities for her, and maybe testing and prodding WWE a little bit and saying, well, stop me, and then let's see where this goes. And that could be tied into negotiations as well. It's interesting, but yes, I think I'm with you. I think the longer this drags out, the less it's going to matter when she does indeed make the decision to make the call.
Absolutely, couldn't agree more. Good news on this last story here. Big E's going to make a complete recovery according to his doctors. That is awesome. Yeah. Particularly as last week we just had that what sounded like a setback when he revealed that his C1 vertebrae wasn't forming new bone, wasn't ossifying, and he was going to have an examination on the 1 year mark. He's still going to have that examination, but there's some positive news coming out of a conversation he's had with Mark Raimondi for ESPN. His doctors think he'll make this complete recovery. He's going to be evaluated at the 6 and 9 month marks. It won't be until the 1 year mark, which will be March 2023, when they'll have an accurate gauge of how much time he's going to miss. So it's going to be a while before this guy comes back. A very serious injury, fracturing his C1 and C6 vertebrae. But in more good news, he's going to be working for WWE over SummerSlam weekend in Nashville. They're holding a tryout, bunch of athletes from different backgrounds, over 50 people there. He's going to be there. He's going to be evaluating folk. It's appropriate because he was a high school and college football player. He was a powerlifter before coming into WWE. Perfect guy to put in that role. Perfect guy. So shout outs to Big E. I didn't want to go too much into this, but he's a guy who's been very generous with his time when it comes to working directly with us. Yeah. A very nice guy across the board, consummate professional, great at what he does. Horrific injury. Good to hear he's doing better. Cannot wait to see him back in whatever capacity that may be.
Yeah, we love Big E at WhatCulture, but that in itself feels a bit redundant because who doesn't love Big E? This is good news. Any news on Big E's recovery that is indeed a recovery is sort of greeted with, I think, unanimous relief and joy amongst the wrestling community and amongst, obviously, you guys watching and indeed us in the office. We're all on the same page when it comes to Big E, and we're all constantly rooting for news like this breaking. The SummerSlam thing is absolutely fantastic as well. For a guy like Big E that is just, he's spoken at length about liking time by himself and being quite quiet when he's off camera. When he's getting to be in front of people, he's this amazing Big E that we've all fallen in love with. So to get a little taste of that again will be as nice for the people, I guess, there as it will be for him to be able to be back amongst it. It's magic, this. It's all just great. It's all what we want to hear.
Positive stuff across the board, and best wishes to him in his continued recovery. All right, let's move over to today's Twitter questions. The first one comes from Andy Matson, who, by the way, has attached an alligator gif. And let me just tell you, if you put an alligator gif and it's funny and I've not seen it before in your Twitter question, you have a 0.5% higher chance of being featured. Don't say I'm not generous. But Andy asks, morning gents, what do you think about Swerve Strickland and Keith Lee winning the belts? Who are you most looking forward to seeing them defend against? Love the show and the king of the mic thing, lol, even though it annoys you. I will just say, before we answer that question, don't you bloody dare. You know damn well that you cannot deal with the eel. Right, what do you reckon? Who do you want to see Swerve in our glory face?
Two eels.
Two eels!
The Eels. The band The Eels.
Eddie the Eel.
Yeah.
And
give me another eel.
Eddie Edwards.
Is he an eel now?
He's an eel.
He's an eel. Impact's eel. Dynamite is the Blade. The Butcher and the Blade.
Is there a guy called Eddie the Eel, or have I just made that? Was that the crap
Eddie
swimmer?
the Eagle, I think you think.
Oh, gee whiz.
I can't remember.
Right, forget.
Two of them. Just two of the actual eels. Two real eels versus Swerve in Our Glory. But also, like, I'm worried about treading on your toes here, but the Butcher and the Blade at this point feel like one of the few teams that have always been there in AEW, but have never been considered worthy of contention. And I'm just looking at the landscape at the moment. As much as there are obvious answers such as, FTR or a rematch against the Young Bucks, I want to see the field opened up. I think it was something that they were trying to do with Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus.
Yeah.
I'm not sure it worked so well because the way they arrived at the match just felt a little fake. Hey, you, 6th in the rankings. I'll see you on Rampage for the big title match. They're a little bit sports entertainment-y. But yeah, I'd like to see the Butcher and Blade assemble 6 wins and work their way into that spot, just
do it in Buffalo.
See, now that
do it in their hometown.
Yes, now there's and that's like the AEW staple as well.
Yeah.
Make it hot, make it cool. And it's fresh, feels super
fresh. 100%. And listen to The Butcher, by the way, on Renee Paquette's The Sessions. This fascinating man who has lived probably the most interesting life of all time.
Yeah.
It is... What a listen. And you will come out of that rooting for them to strap them up in Buffalo. It's really awesome. As an alternative, I know it's not the most original line of thought, but I still think that Starks and Hobbs beating them for the belts would be a good catalyst. But also you have the FTR number 1 ranked question to answer as well. So there's a lot of interesting possibilities. Right, our second question today comes from Cool Link 7. Who says, good morning, guys. After last night's TNT title match, who do you see as the perfect person to take the belt off Wardlow? What do you reckon?
Can I have 2?
You can have as many as you want.
Because I'm going to answer the question, and then I'm going to sort of cheat and contradict the question. So the answer to the question, after a long reign for Wardlow, and simultaneously a long build for this opponent, is a flash, shock win, sucker punch for the governor. Anthony Ogogo.
Nice.
12 months or so of steady rebuilding of Anthony Ogogo after obviously the kind of the Cody match was a moment for him, but not exactly maybe the way he would have liked it to have gone.
Yeah.
But everything he's done since then has been fantastic.
The promo in his garden in LA for Progress.
Yeah.
So
Fantastic.
much fun.
He is currently running the show on Dark and Dark Elevation. He does commentary. He wins his squash matches in class fashion, along with the Factory, like the sort of the heel goon squad of the YouTube shows that I absolutely love.
You're a huge Factory guy.
I am now. I'm a Factory guy now. But the governor is rising above it. And what he's got, that power of the punch was so believable when it was like first deployed, and then obviously it wasn't like thrown away in the Cody match, but it did need to be rebuilt again. And indeed, Anthony Ogogo's picked up the wins along the way. Like I say, long runs for both, leading to that one surprise victory. AEW doles these out every now and then. Huge shocks like that. The other one is not for Wardlow to lose, but him to surrender the title when he wins the AEW World title in a champion versus champion, ultimate challenge, Hogan Warrior type deal.
Oh, baby.
Pick your world champion by then, it doesn't matter. Yeah. Wardlow's been indestructible and rises all the way as the unbeaten TNT champion.
Lineage of the title could be Eddie Kingston gets this big win against CM Punk, who's beaten Jon Moxley.
I know, I like where this is going.
Cruelly broken by MJF,
yes.
who loses to Wardlow long term.
We've done it.
Boom. We've saved wrestling.
Free Tony Khan.
You
can take that.
But yeah, awesome. And my answer is Malachi Black, because I just want to see a black metal version of the TNT title. Like a hallmark of that belt has been like. So Scorpio Sky had the Lakers colors. Everyone has lots of guys have their own version of this title.
Guevara covered it in cum.
Yep, that happened. But I want to see it with the spikes and just black metal. I want to see one of those fonts that really heavy metal bands have, where you can't read the words and stuff, and it's just a mess of things. I'm a House of Black guy. I would love to see that. So hey, let's do it. Also, the matches would rule because Malachi Black is an excellent wrestler. So
anything on an Eric Redbeard t-shirt belongs on a belt.
Oh man, we need another Redbeard appearance, by the way. He was so much fun at Revolution.
Love that guy.
That big beefy boy coming in once every 6 months. Awesome. Last question today comes from everyone's favourite misfit. Welcome back. Not heard from everyone's favourite misfit in a while, but here they are. With Turner executives being supportive of more AEW pay-per-views and Tony Khan buying Ring of Honor, could we see All In added back to the mix, perhaps as a WrestleMania-like event, but between all the promotions that they have a working relationship with? I think this is a really interesting and layered and deep question that we could do a 30-minute podcast on, because I love the idea of All In existing in history as a big one-off thing that preceded this promotion's launch and brought the wider wrestling world together. It's a massive thing in wrestling history, this show. But I also love the idea of an annual Forbidden Door style supercard where it's not just AEW, where it's Ring of Honor, where it's New Japan, where it's AAA, where it's Tokyo Joshi Pro, where it's whatever promotions this company is going to be working with in the future. I think that is an incredible idea. What do you reckon? And if they do that, should it be under the All In banner? It would be quite appropriate.
Yeah, it's lovely that. I really like I think we talked a little bit as relates to the All Atlantic title about this idea of how wide AEW wanted to spread the net and indeed open the wrestling world up. The All In name is so perfect for it. I never would have thought about that because it's so entrenched in AEW lore, even though it's not AEW branded. I love that show, by the way, and the fact that Tony Khan bought Ring of Honor and now has the rights to it feels right. It feels like it is where it belongs. I think, the more I think about the All Atlantic title and this All In concept, I remember Bruce Pritchard on his podcast always saying Vince McMahon pitched the idea of the network. No such thing as streaming in the 80s, but the WWE network as a concept was talking about it as early as the late 80s. Yeah. Right? There's always been a thing you thought could be possible. The more archive footage out. Part of me thinks Tony Khan or somebody within AEW has had this idea pitched for years. Like, yes, we'll form a company, but also we could be a wrestling destination. Yeah. We could be a hotbed. We could be a hub, and one night a year there could be a celebration of that. You think about AEW always being a part of, say, wrestling conventions now, and AEW letting the wrestlers do things like the GCW WrestleMania weekend shows. John Moxley's been the GCW World Heavyweight Champion and done Bloodsport and things like that. Yeah. There's tons of examples of how they've kind of allowed AEW to exist beyond the walls of AEW. So why would that not work the other way around? Yeah. I wonder if this has been on the table with the powerful people quite a long time.
The big boys, the HBO people. No, that's the HBO.
Because of its potential.
What are they called? Discovery.
There's no ceiling to it, is there? Yeah. There's absolutely no ceiling to it. Like, imagine saying you can pick from the menu of any wrestler in the world, other than who's on WWE's books. That's appealing, isn't it?
100%. And it's like, I always think that with any form of art, be it wrestling, be it music, be it television, what movies, whatever you're into, the best thing about these is discovering new stuff and like learning your new favorite thing, and that's a great opportunity to do that. Like if an AEW fan, for example, watched Miyu Yamashita on Dark this week, they might go, she's really awesome. I'm going to go and check some Tokyo Joe. Oh look, like this Shoko Nakajima, she's really cool as well. And look what Maki Ito's doing over here. Like
who's got two thumbs in is the guy that Murray is talking about.
Hey,
this guy.
There you go. So like the joy of discovery is the best thing about following anything, in my opinion, and this show would be a great way to facilitate that. But thank you for joining us on today's wrestling news video. We'll be back tomorrow with, you know what we do on Fridays, alligators. Follow us on Twitter at WhatCulture WWE. Follow Michael at
Michael Hamflet.
What does the Michael stand for?
Michael, mostly Michael Bolton.
You can follow me on Twitter at Andy H. Murray. The H stands for How Much Is That Doggy in the Window, which is not only his favourite song, but it's about his favourite animal as well. Goodbye!
It's better than Hullabaloo by Muse.